Hello, this is Krista Okan. I'm going to be reading from my autobiography again today. This is chapter 13. I consider it basically the heart of the book. It was the enlightenment that I experienced around 1977. It was kind of frightening. Parts of it were very scary, parts of it were beautiful. But anyway, this is the event that took me on a different path shortly after I had these experiences. It's called The Awakening. An unwelcome past life surfaces. From the time I was 12, when I gave up the church because a priest had told me to go home and change, as I was not permitted to enter church clad in trousers, and I went home and changed into an atheist, I never looked back. During the years that followed, I gathered additional reasons to stay away from organized religions. Over the centuries, between them just the Christians and Mohammedans had killed millions of people, often brutally so, and all in the name of God. In my late 20s, I viewed life cynically, a cruel accident of atoms and molecules, run amok in a senseless universe. Life was a burden, filled with trauma, and at odd times, a touch of transient joy, but not enough joy to make it all worthwhile. Men hated women, whites hated blacks, the young disdained the old, Christians hated Jews, everywhere wars and talk of wars prevailed. No loving God could have designed such a universe. In the end, the grave swallowed you up and then nothing more. You came, you bounced around on life's stage, crying, laughing, and then away you went. End of story. At the time we moved to Germantown, which was outside of Philadelphia, I needed extensive dental work. A love of sweets, parents not attuned to dental care, and haphazard brushing had resulted in many cavities and several infected roots. I feared and dreaded dentistry. The mere thought of a drill going into my teeth set me on edge. The idea of needles going into my gum caused palpitations. Nevertheless, I could no longer defer an overhaul of my choppers. I asked my new friend Carol to recommend a local dentist. She recommended Harry Levine. You'll want to give Dr. Levine's nitrous oxide a try, my friend suggested, after hearing of my dread of dental work. Also known as laughing gas, nitrous oxide is given to anxious patients to help relax and calm fears. When I made an appointment, I had no idea how radically my life would soon be transformed by virtue of the nitrous oxide splitting my understanding of the world wide open. Before administering the injection to numb my gums, Dentist Levine placed a rubber cone over my nose. He cranked up the nitrous, and I inhaled deeply. It took only seconds to start feeling the effect. Not being a drug taker, either of the prescribed or recreational types, I paid minute attention to the effect the nitrous oxide had on me. The first thing I noticed was that the music I'd been hearing started to come to me in distinct and separate waves. Always quick to recognize a tune, I found I couldn't identify the next piece that came on. Interesting. Did that mean my hearing sped up so that I could now hear each individual sound wave as it hit my eardrums? Next, my peripheral observation of the dentist's office started to decrease. Second by second, my awareness of the outside diminished. Suddenly and without warning, my conscious awareness was focused entirely inside my very body. It's as if I had suddenly become a microscopic self, able to see beyond the cells to what gave each cell life. What I saw thrilled me to the core. Billions of minuscule units of energy going about the job of being my body and keeping me alive. The energy was conscious, aware, and purposeful. The billions of tiny consciousnesses moved as if in a ballet, each bodily system engaged in a cooperative venture of unimaginable magnitude and complexity with each of the other systems. The blood streaming and pulsating and distributing nutrients and oxygen and removing waste products, the muscles holding bones together, nerves sending messages from head to foot at lightning speed, the stomach and intestines processing food. Every particle that made up my body consisted of aware energy, bent on its important work and acting in harmony with the whole. There was no energy devoid of purpose and mission. The energetic image of my body mesmerized and transfixed me. I felt like I'd seen the most sacred workings of the universe. Absolutely every single particle or unit of consciousness is aware energy, filled with purpose according to a grand design. Coming out from under the nitrous some minutes later, I knew without question that the universe is no accidental construct. I understood that every single molecule and every life has a purpose, even if the purpose is not apparent to us while in the flesh, because of our limited human intellect and the way in which we have been conditioned to experience reality. Though I could never have anticipated this radical change in me as a result of a single trip to the dentist, I came out of the nitrous with a totally altered worldview. The universe was sacred. Nothing as miraculous as what I had been allowed to see could have been caused by accidents or happenstance. From that moment forward, I never again questioned the existence of God, though my idea of God had no resemblance to the immature, supremely jealous and wrathful Old Testament deity. I could hardly wait for my next dental appointment, but some of the subsequent experiences I would have under nitrous would prove a lot more disturbing for me. Almost as soon as I'd started inhaling the nitrous on my second visit, and with the dentist going about his work, I received the message, "There is no death." I didn't see anyone speaking the message, so assumed it was being given to me telepathically. But by whom? In any event, this was not something I wanted to hear. The suggestion was that reincarnation was a reality, but it was a reality I wasn't prepared to accept or acknowledge. Though my father believed in reincarnation and that he'd lived in the times of the pharaohs in ancient Egypt, I'd avoided adopting his views on life. I had lived with way too much emotional pain. The idea that I'd have to go through anything as horrendous as life in a physical body a second time was beyond terrifying. I would not accept this message and its teachings. I struggled out of the nitrous so that no additional messages could reach me during that visit. 2 weeks later, back in the dentist's chair, as soon as the nitrous started coursing through my system, the message issued forth again. There is no death. The message was perfectly clear, though I did not see anyone who spoke actual words. Again, the words seemed to be imprinted in my mind by telepathy. Again, I refused to accept the message and struggled up out of the nitrous haze. I had no idea who or what was instructing me, but the message had been insistent. I wasn't having it. Another few weeks later, back in the dentist's chair, as soon as the nitrous started coursing through me, the message came again. This was now the third time that I was receiving it. There is no death. But this time, before I could struggle up out of the nitrous, I was shown the end of a life of mine. I had no idea then, nor do I to this day, whether the life I saw ending was my current life, an earlier life, or a life yet to come. But what I saw during this visit to Dr. Levine's office continued to shape and transform me into the person I have now become. With the nitrous coursing through me and apparently having opened some sort of inner portal to other dimensions, I witnessed the planet experiencing a monumental explosion, most likely a nuclear bomb. Thousands, if not millions, of souls left their bodies at the same time as a result of the massive blast. I had died instantly. As I saw myself leave that body, I became aware of a greater life of mine then in progress. It began to feel as though I had only just dreamed of the life that was ending. The life I was leaving was more shadowy, somehow less real, than the greater life in progress I now grew aware of. It felt quite like waking from a particularly detailed dream to realize that you'd been sleeping all along. Given this visual and visceral experience of a life ending and awareness of a greater life in progress, I finally accepted the teaching that there is no death, at least no death of the inner eternal self. Your physical body perishes, but the energy which animates it and is underneath the flesh and blood version of you, your true self never dies, it merely changes form. A subsequent experience at the dentist on the nitrous oxide showed me the formation of our planet. It looked almost like an animation by Disney, the mass of swirling nebulous matter condensing into solidity, then continents taking shape, massive bodies of water swirling, creatures moving about. It was a magical presentation, and I loved seeing it. I wanted to know precisely how long it had taken to create our planet. Was it really 6 days, as the Bible said? I repeatedly struggled to come out of the nitrous so I could see the time. Finally, my dentist, getting nervous about my frequently looking at my watch while he was diligently laboring, interjected, "What's the matter? I'm not getting this job done fast enough for you." In truth, Harry Levine was the last thing on my mind just then. I was in search of answers to questions of monumental importance. I was eager to know if the Bible accurately timed the planet's creation. Anyway, I couldn't answer with his drill in my mouth, but according to my watch, it had taken only 5 minutes for the world to form. It would take years for me to realize that our idea of time is relatively meaningless outside of our physical system. What I had witnessed in just 5 minutes under nitrous oxide could have taken eons of our clock time to accomplish. On another dentist visit, I was shown pairs of opposites while under nitrous oxide. I was led to understand that as developing consciousnesses, our human selves initially learn from seeing the world in terms of opposites. Night and day, black and white, short and tall, fat and thin, happy and sad, good and bad. As we live life after life and develop spiritual refinement, we stop seeing these opposites as meaningful and perceive them as two sides of but a single coin, a continuum that had opposing aspects. I was instructed that all lessons are intended for our evolution as living spiritual beings. I'd had several cavities filled and a root canal when the most disturbing and unsettling nitrous experience surfaced. No sooner had I gone under than I was presented with a slice of Hitler's early life when he was still in Austria. I was shown Hitler, the teenager, aged 17 or 18, and his devotion to his bedridden mother as she lay dying of breast cancer. In the vision, a young Hitler was down on his hands and knees, scrubbing the floors of their humble apartment, then cooking a meal, fluffing his mother's pillow with the utmost tenderness, reading to her, bathing her, and helping her eat. I saw that Hitler's mother had a Jewish doctor attending her. The doctor was unable to save Hitler's mother. Hitler's mother was possibly the only human being he ever truly loved, and his love for her was intense. Her death devastated him. I had no idea if what I had seen had in fact happened, or if Hitler had ever really loved anyone. His universal reputation is that of the supreme heartless monster who even poisoned his beloved shepherd dog, Blondie, trying out the poison capsule on her to see if it really could work hours before Hitler took his own life. But under nitrous oxide, I'd seen a young man who loved deeply and who wasn't ashamed to show his love. I flew up out of the nitrous oxide state in a panic. Why in the world had I been shown Hitler's life? Was it because I was German and the dentist was Jewish? What could have caused this revelation? What was my connection to Hitler? And why was I shown a human side of Hitler, a caring and devoted side, rather than the man who monstrously decided that some people were not worthy of life? Was what I had seen even true at all? How was it possible for the universe to store a visual and audio image of an event to be viewed by someone under nitrous oxide decades after the actual events had taken place? Where was this information stored? Is our every act and word and even thought recorded somewhere for ourselves or even strangers to go back and examine? I was seriously troubled by having been given this information and did not understand why it had come to me. Up until my revelation regarding Hitler's devotion to his mother, the things I'd seen or heard under nitrous had been life-affirming, expansive. Always, I'd come out of the nitrous filled with greater love and compassion for people. In part, it was the heightened sense of love and caring that gave me assurance that the lessons I was being given under nitrous oxide were life-enhancing and positive. I was unable to discern what importance or significance Hitler's devastating loss as a teenager was supposed to have on me. 40 years were to pass before I again encountered the information I'd been given about Hitler's teenage years, and the loss of his mother. A boyhood friend of his, and indeed Hitler only had one friend, August Kubitschek, detailed Hitler's devotion to his dying mother in his book, The Young Hitler I Knew. Kubitschek's account mirrored exactly what I'd seen under nitrous oxide decades earlier. Kubitschek's book had originally been published in Germany in 1953. I came upon the book for the first time in 2006. It helped validate what I saw under nitrous. If I was freaked out by having seen a slice of Hitler's early life, the next revelation under nitrous proved even more disturbing. After having experienced a portion of the fear, turmoil, and terror millions of people experienced as they went to their death in concentration camps or were otherwise harmed, hurted, or ill-treated, I was now informed, you made a mistake. The message imprinted itself as kind but firm, not judgmental, just factual. I understood the remark was intended to let me know that I had made a mistake in my affiliation with the Nazi Party and Hitler. I wasn't shown the connection or given the name or identity of a particular person I had been in that life. Before I scrambled out of that nitrous oxide in a state of panic, I was given a few other tidbits of information. Jews are to be viewed as your older brothers and sisters. They have been part of the universe longer than many other groups. They are to be treated with reverence as you would treat your elders. The images I beheld showed that Jews had originated on a planet that was at the time positioned similar to where our own is now relative to the sun. The vast majority of their people had graduated and moved on to other planetary systems. However, a few had stayed behind and helped to seed our Earth. As part of that earlier planetary group, the Jews, and they had not been known by that name at that time, that had moved on, had mastered the art of manipulating energy that appears in three-dimensional realities in the form of matter and events. It was one of the lessons this civilization had to master before they were able to move on to other planetary systems. Indeed, I was instructed that each of us must yet master manipulating, attracting, holding, and releasing energy in the form of matter while we're in physical form. If not in this life, then in another. It was part of the reincarnational system to master how energy is used. I came out of the nitrous flabbergasted and dreading the information I'd been given about being affiliated with the Nazi Party in an immediately prior life. No wonder I had so zealously fought to avoid the subject of reincarnation being shown to me that it took 3 separate sessions with nitrous oxide before I finally allowed the information to come through me. Suddenly, several things that had puzzled me over the years started to make sense, like not being able to watch movies about war and bombs dropping on people, or the fact that I'd kept my German accent my entire life, while Lori had lost hers within 2 years of moving from Germany. I was evidently meant to remember the German affiliation and learn from the mistake I'd made in that other life. But how exactly were you supposed to learn from such mistakes if you aren't consciously aware of an earlier life? In the context of this information, the treatment I received at Midwood High also started to make sense to me. And so did Lori's statement rejecting any affiliation with Nazi Germany or any sense of responsibility for the horrors carried out by Germans. Well, I wasn't alive back at that time and had nothing to do with it, Lori said when we talked about it. Her reaction did not resonate for me. I'd never let the fact that I, Krista, wasn't alive during World War II stop me from feeling a sense of German guilt. Even if neither of my parents was affiliated with the Nazis, as a German, I still felt some responsibility for the loss of so many millions of lives. Over the years, I asked all of my friends whether they'd had life-altering experiences while at the dentist's office under nitrous oxide. Not one of them shared my transformative adventures or revelations. Certainly, I couldn't be the only human on the planet whose doors to the infinite opened with nitrous oxide. I subsequently discovered that Harvard professor William James, the great American philosopher and father of American psychology, who lived 1842 to 1910, had similarly moving revelations under nitrous. Known as the nitrous oxide philosopher, he wrote about its ability to alter the mind's perception and open it to greater understanding of the universe. Knowing that a Harvard educated professor teaching at Harvard had shared my ability to enter other worlds through nitrous oxide allowed me to feel less peculiar. The revelations about a past life in which my actions had harmed others would simmer in me slowly over the years. I was not enthusiastic about digging deeper into the subject. Was it even remotely possible that any part of me could have been devoted to Hitler? Who was it? What had he done? It was obviously important for me to get and retain the material, but I was not ready. My higher self was in no rush to force my further awakening. I would continue to get clues about that earlier life until I deemed myself properly ready, emotionally stable, and able to handle some news that would stun and distress me. My experiences under laughing gas at the dentist constituted the most profound move I was ever going to make. A move back to a belief in God and a belief in reincarnation. It would be more than 30 years and hypnosis by a Jungian analyst who specialized in past life dream work before I was able to flesh out and see Fritz, the life the nitrous oxide message had alerted me to. But during the intervening years, Fritz would affect me, touching my life in bleed truths where I experienced his opinions, wants, and yearnings, and at times acted on them. So that is chapter 13, and I'm sharing with you just a little part of my awakening process. It was not pleasant, it wasn't fun, but it did help to make me into the person I've become today. So hope you all enjoyed this. Ciao.